missing. Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, here are the most important people of the school. So thank you for coming. I know it's been hard. I know it's been a great week with great lectures. Yeah. Okay. 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 Great. We will tell them later. So thank you for coming. It's been a great week, despite I arrived at the last moment. But I'm sure you really enjoyed. Okay. And now, okay. And I mean, you did it. You arrived to the last day, and now it's time to enjoy a little bit. I mean, not so serious talk because I'm going to talk about football. Football. I mean, sports in general, but in particular soccer. So yeah. Let's see if you enjoy the talk. I mean, of course, I try to be scientific, but yeah, the main idea of this lecture is that you realize that, yeah, probably not just the sports, but you realize that probably if you find a field that you really like, maybe you can apply network science to this field. And no matter if it is sports or wherever. I mean, I did it in sports because I like sports a lot. And after long time analyzing networks, different kind of social, biological, and technological networks, I realized that I could join network science with the sports, one of my preferred disciplines, and I really like to do science in this topic. So if you find a topic, whatever it is, that you may think that you can apply network science, go for it, because yeah, I mean, I'm sure network science can work to explain many things in a different way. So I come from the complex system group in the King Juan Carlos University, Madrid. I mean, I am in quite a small group. We are like 10 to, yeah, around 10 people, including, I mean, senior staff, young students, postdocs, etc. And we work basically in analyzing the structure and dynamics of networks. We have worked for years in the application of network science to neuroscience. We have a laboratory of neuron cultures where we have neurons of locusts that we grow and we analyze how they are connected between them. And we also have a laboratory of nonlinear electronics where we construct networks of nonlinear dynamical systems, and we study basically synchronization and the interaction between the structure of the networks and the dynamics of the systems. But I don't know, maybe in the year 2016, 17, we began to work in sports. I mean, just by chance, this is probably how many things happen. I mean, just by chance, you discover a paper, you realize that, well, you could apply what you know to this kind of topic, and then after some years, you realize that you have done many things in this topic. Probably you began to work in your discipline in this way, just by chance, because someone recommended you to begin to work on that topic, etc. So since probably around 10 years, we've been working, analyzing sports, mainly soccer, but that's also another sports. I will talk a little bit about them. Yeah, and we have this webpage where we have some of the results that we already published. And yeah, we did a lot of things from the scientific point of view and also from the applied point of view. So we have collaborated with clubs, with national leagues, etc. So, I mean, I'm going to talk about network science, of course, to focus on network science. We did many things, but yeah, there's a lot of people in the works that I will talk about. Basically, the people of my group, but also people from La Liga. We've collaborated with La Liga for many years. They are very interested in applied science to sports. We have collaborated with several teams. Probably you know Football Club Barcelona, one of the best teams in the world. But we also collaborated with other teams like Fuenlabrada, Liga de Quito, or Eibar, that are not so well known, but they also do very nice things with applying data science and also network science to the analysis of sports. And yeah, also there's a a bunch of scientists that have decided to collaborate with us. If at the end I will show you some references, and you will see people there that, yeah, they are collaborating with us in this kind of analysis. People also from the network science community. We are, for example, writing right now a paper with Vito Latora. Maybe you heard about him, that he's also interested in soccer. You realize that, yeah, there's people that, yeah, I mean, if you like sports, and yeah, if you can join it to network science. So yeah, if you feel that you are interested in this topic and you think that you could collaborate with us, please tell me, and we are open to collaborate with you in any area that you may have or not, or if you have a proposal or whatever. We are there. You have my contact, and we are open because, yeah, we like very much to collaborate with other people. There are many, many things to do, as I will show you. So, yeah, this is the outline of the talk. At the beginning, I would do a short introduction about network science in sports. I would talk about soccer as a complex system, networks in sports, and also how football can benefit from network science. And then I will talk about some of the few applications that are mainly focused on network science, because, I mean, you can do many, many things analyzing data in sports and soccer, okay? But I will just focus on network science. So let's go for it. It's great to talk in front of you. All of you know what is a complex system. I don't have to explain it, okay? We know everything about a neuron. We have models of neurons. We know how they behave, how they communicate between them, how they die. But we know hardly anything about the brain. Why? Because the brain mainly works due to the interaction of 10 to the 11 neurons. So it's crazy, but it's the complexity of the system that makes the system to behave. And in soccer, it's something like this. I mean, we have like a player that plays in a team, and in a team you have interaction with other players of your team, but also an interaction with the players of the other team. So at least you have 22 players interacting between them. And then you have also the ball. So the ball is like another node, different from the other nodes. And you have also the referee. And so there's complexity there. And it makes sense. It makes sense to treat, for example, the players as the nodes, and the interaction between players as the links. So it makes sense to apply network science to describe, for example, how a football team behaves. So this is what we are going to do. I mean, we are going to try to apply what we learned about analyzing networks in other contexts. I've been working in neuroscience for many years, so some of the ideas that I bring to soccer are from neuroscience, as you will see later, okay? Please feel free to stop me whenever you want, okay? If you have something to say, please stop me, because I don't mind to finish before. I will pass all the slides to you, so, but please stop me and we can discuss whatever you think, okay? So let's go to see how network science can be applied to sports. Does it make sense? I mean, this is the first idea. Does it make sense, as I was telling you before? Yeah, it makes sense. We have interactions between actors. In this case, are players or athletes. So let's go for it. Let's go to define what is a node and what is the interaction between the nodes. And you know, in a network, you only need this. You need nodes and interactions. That's all. And with that, you have a network. So we will think about what is a node and what is the interaction, and that's all. And we can apply it in different contexts. So one important thing is that we have we need data. Okay, we have to be very in touch with reality. I mean, it's very difficult to publish or to sell models, theoretical models in sports. You have to work with data, with your data. So yeah, the first thing that you have to realize is, what data do I have, and what can I do with this data? There are many types of data, and as I will tell you later, so you have to adapt to the data that you have. And with the data that you have to think how to construct networks and how to analyze. Okay. The second step, once you have the data, is what is a node? What will be the nodes of my networks? Probably the players. Yeah, it makes sense. But the players of the same team, maybe the players of the opponent team can also be nodes. Or maybe we can consider that the node is a team. So FC Barcelona could be a node, and Real Madrid another node, and they are interacting between them. Or for example, a node could be a region of the pitch, of the field. Okay, so you have connections between the region of the pitch if the ball goes from here to here. So you can say, okay, there's a connection between this part of the pitch to this other part of the pitch. So second step is to define the nodes. Next, you have to define the links. What are the connections between these nodes? Okay. For example, the most extended way of analyzing a soccer team using network science is to analyze the player passing networks. In a player passing network, you have a player passing the ball to another player. So you can count for the passes and count how many passes you have between them, and the pass is the connection. It is what is going to create the link, the pass. Okay. And the fourth step is the analysis. So what do I measure? Is it useful? How do I plot it? How do I interpret it? I mean, this is something that you always have, no matter what is the topic you are working in. Mario knows very well. I mean, you can know a lot about network science, but the fourth step, the interpretation of the analysis, is very difficult, because probably the same result in a different system, it can be interpreted in a very different way. We can talk about it later, okay? So the interpretation and the analysis of the results, it's particular of sports and of soccer if you are working in soccer. So with these constraints, more or less, with these ideas, let's see some examples, okay? The first example is not in soccer. This is a paper of water polo, okay? This paper is from 2011, and these researchers, Espasos et al. Et al. Includes a series of like 6, 7 researchers, and one of them is Jose Mendes. Maybe you know him very well, Jose Mendes from Aveiro. So yeah, it's like 15 years since this paper. So what they did in this paper, basically they took the video of a water polo match and they counted the passes between players. So at the end, they have these kind of networks, very simple networks. These networks are weighted and directed, so they are arrows, and they are just counting the number of passes from one player to another player. And at the end, they included the goalkeeper of the opponent team. Okay, so they were analyzing the structure of this passing network, trying to find what were the important nodes, how was the ball moved until it arrived to the opponent goalkeeper. Okay, so this is one example of how to construct a network, and it's probably the most extended way of constructing a network in sports, a passing network. Okay, because it makes sense to consider a pass as the connection between players. You have here another example, 2016, a paper from Papalardo. It's an Italian group. They work a lot also in soccer, but I wanted to show you this example in rugby. And you can see here that things are getting more complicated, because this is like a bipartite network. You have two kind of nodes, because here you have two teams. Okay, so you have the players of the two teams. And not only that, you have the two teams, and you have also two kind of links. When the ball is passed between the players of the same team, you have this green connection. And when you have a tackle from one opponent, so when an opponent comes to you and tackles you, you have a red link. So there you have a mixture of links of different nature and nodes of different nature, because they are two teams. So as you can see here, things are getting complicated. If you want to introduce that into a matrix and calculate the shortest path, it doesn't make sense, because the links are of different nature. So as you can see, you need to begin to think about different ways of analyzing this particular network, constrained by the nature of the system that it is below, in this case, a rugby match. So yes, they analyzed the structure of a rugby team and trying to detect what were the important players in this kind of networks, okay? This is another example from 2012. This is basketball, okay? Here you have 5 nodes. These 5 nodes are here you have the information, the 5 starting players of a match with 5 positions, node number 1 is the point guard, node number 2 is the shooting guard, the small forward, the power forward, and the center. So you have the initial 5 players of a match, and with that they counted basically also the number of passes, how the ball was moved from the inbound to the player that initiates the play and of the sequence of movements of the team, and then you have how the players have passed the ball between them, and finally you have the finalization of the play. You have different finalizations here, and they study what is basically this structure, okay? How it's organized depending on the team. It seems simple, but it is not, because, for example, this is only the starting 5, and there are more players playing here. But yes, what happens if you want to include the substitutes, and you have many substitutes? Then how to include the substitutes here is not that easy. It is not a matter of just introducing players and counting the number of passes. You have to think how to do it. Maybe when you replace a player, you put another player there, and you consider these 2 players to be the same node. There are different approaches, okay? But it is not that simple. So what they did here is to analyze 16 teams in the 2010 playoffs, the matches of the playoffs, and they observed that different teams like the Chicago Bulls, Cleveland Cavaliers, Celtics, or Lakers, they have different structures, and they try to understand how this structure is related to the way the teams played, etc. They calculated, for example, the shortest path, the average shortest path of the teams, and classical network parameters. What does it mean? What does it mean to have a lower shortest path? For example, the Bulls are the teams that with the lowest shortest path, and the Lakers are the ones with the longest shortest path. What is the consequence on the play? It's difficult to interpret. Okay. I don't know. I don't know who won. Okay, I don't remember. But this is not going to explain you that. You need to have a very low shortest path, and if you have a very low shortest path, you are going to win. No, it's not like this. Okay, it is much more complicated. The interpretation of the parameters. So at the end, you can calculate whatever you want because you have a network. But how do you interpret this? It's not that easy. You can also have networks in sports that are individual sports. Not only team sports. And this is also a very classical example. This is a paper of boxing, 2020, from Tennant. And basically what you have here, it's a kind of obtaining rankings in competitions. So this methodology is very general. Probably you have applied it. It's the page rank algorithm that probably most of you know that it is based in the concept of the eigenvector centrality, the eigenvector associated to the largest eigenvalue of the connectivity matrix. Okay, so here what you have is boxers that have had a combat between them, and you select a boxer. Sorry, it's going to pass to the other one. No. Yeah, so you have a boxer. If this boxer wins a combat against this boxer, he receives an arrow from this boxer. So the arrows you receive are the results of a combat that you won. And if the arrow goes from you to another boxer, is that you lost that combat. Okay? So in this way, you can construct a network. And the funny thing is that you can construct a network where you have boxers of different decades. Okay? Despite they have not boxed between them. Okay? So at the end, once you have this network, you can calculate this page rank or this eigenvector centrality and try to see who is the player with the highest eigenvector centrality or with the highest page rank. So it's an objective way of determining who is the best boxer in history, because you have all combats here, the results of all combats. Okay. I don't have time to insist, but probably most of you know that eigenvector centrality is a centrality measure that takes into account not only the number of links that you have, but also if these links are to other nodes that are important. So here, the concept of eigenvector centrality, it is measuring not only how many combats you won, but also against who. If this person that you won is also a good boxer, your eigenvector centrality is going to be higher. If it is a boxer that it is not very good, the contribution to the eigenvector centrality is not going to be very high. Okay. So yeah, you have exactly the same methodology applied to snooker. I don't know if you do you know what is a snooker? No? Okay. If you go to Great Britain and you go to a bar, you probably will see there's a pool, this pool table, but it's larger than the classical pool table. So it's like a kind of pool that they play in, especially in Great Britain. They love it. They love it. In a pub, you will see people playing darts and snooker. Okay. The snooker, I mean, you have this so 6 holes on the table, and you have to put the balls on the table but with a particular rules. Okay. You have to hit the ball of one color and then another color. Yeah, you obtain points for that. Whoops. Okay. So it's basically pool. And they love it. In Great Britain, they love it. So what they did here, exactly the same. But in this case, they filtered the data in decades. And they wanted to understand who was the best snooker player at the different decades. Okay? So constraining the data to certain decades, you can evaluate who is the snooker player who had the highest page rank in this snooker network. Okay? And they realized that, for example, John Higgins or Roy Sullivan, they've been very important during a certain decade. Okay? And of course, it has a relation with the number of wins, but it is not, I mean, it is, of course, they are correlated. You have a correlation there, but you have also snooker players that, I mean, are better captured with this eigenvector centrality, in this case, page rank centrality, and others that are benefited by just the number of wins, but it is, the reason is what I mentioned before. It is not the same winning a good player that winning a bad player, and the eigenvector centrality takes into account that. And finally, you have here another example. This is a badminton network. Okay, this is a paper where I participated because we collaborate with the National Federation of Badminton. Do you know what is badminton? Badminton is a racket sport. You have a net like this height, and then you have something that is called a shuttlecock. You don't have a ball, you have a shuttlecock. It doesn't bounce. You throw it, boom, it doesn't bounce. So in badminton, the ball doesn't bounce. So you hit, and the other person hits. You hit, you just hit. It goes very, very fast, okay? So what you can do here is to analyze where both players are hitting the shuttlecock, and then to construct this kind of bipartite networks, trying to analyze what are the patterns of movement through this network. So what we did here with the National Federation of Badminton, this guy here, Fernando Rivas, is the best coach in the world, probably. When I say the best coach, I mean the best coach in any sport. In any sport. He's a badminton coach, but he quit recently, and now he's giving some advice to football teams also, because, I mean, he's a psychopath of data. I mean, he's completely crazy, and yeah, he lives only for the analysis of whatever he's working on, and yeah, I mean, he raised up a very good badminton player in Spain that is called Carolina Marin. She's a female player, and she was the best player during many years, the best player in the world. She won the World Championship, the Olympics, etc. And the reason was this guy, Fernando Rivas, that wanted to analyze everything what happens in a court, in a badminton court. And for this reason, he contacted us, and he asked us for understanding these patterns and trying to quantify what were the successful patterns that led to winning a point. So we've been working with him for many years, trying to understand what are the successful patterns, the way that you have to follow, I mean, these connections between the regions of the court to win a point. So as you can see, I mean, you have networks in a collective sports, but also in individual sports. You just need to think about what is the data you have and try to think how to construct networks. So let's go to football. And yeah, I mean, I like to talk a lot about this paper. I will just summarize it, but it is a very nice paper, Very, very nice paper. Okay. It was published in 1979. Okay. It is a network. It is a network where you have higher order interactions. Okay. Before the field of network science existed. And it is a great paper about two crazy guys that analyzed a single match. It is the final of the FA Cup between Manchester United and Liverpool. They were supporters of Manchester United. The Manchester United won 2-1, and they had the video of the match, and they counted the passes between the players and constructed the networks and tried to analyze the structures of connections between the players. This is basically what they did. Okay. It is a very nice paper. It is the first paper about network science in sports. And for close to 30 years, it received like 3 or 4 citations. Nobody knew that this paper existed. Even me, when I published the first paper about networks, I discovered it later, okay? But nobody paid attention to it, nobody cared about it, okay? So I think it's important to mention this kind of things that, yeah, many people in my community, they don't know that this paper exists, and they were really pioneers in network science. Not only in sports, in network science, okay? So 30 years later, there was a very crucial paper from Amaral, maybe you know Amaral, and Jordi Duch. Jordi Duch is a close friend that lives also in Spain. He was doing a postdoc with Amaral, and they had the data of the passes of the European Cup 2008. So they said, okay, why don't we construct these networks of passes and try to analyze what are the important players in these connections of the network that finalizes with a goal or with a shot. So here in the middle, you don't see it very well, but this node that it is a square in the middle is a shot. Okay, that could be a goal or not. So they analyze the sequences of passes leading to a shot, and from these sequences of passes, they obtain the networks, and they computed who were the players that were more important in these connections to the goal. Okay, it's funny because I think they don't cite the paper of the previous paper of Gould and Gatrell, that was the best. The first paper about network science. Okay, so after it is amazing because this paper received a lot of attention, and after this paper in 2010, there was an exponential growth of the analysis of network science in the sports, in many different sports. All examples I mentioned before about water polo, rugby, etc., they come after this paper, 2010. Okay, so since 2010, there are many papers about network science in the sports, many different sports, mainly soccer, and yeah, probably this paper is the one that opened the field definitely. So yeah, as I mentioned before, you have different types of networks in soccer, and this is the classical one, okay? The player passing network, where you have the nodes are the players, the players are located in the average position of all passes. So I compute all passes made by a single player. I take the coordinates of these passes, and I put the player in the location X and Y location, two-dimensional location of the average of these passes. And you have something like this. And next, I connect the players between them, counting the number of passes. So, I mean, the width of the arrows are proportional to the number of passes between two players. And with this figure, with this nice figure, you have an idea about how a team has played, where the players have played, and how they were connected between them. Okay? Yeah, tell me, please. Yeah. Yeah, sure. No, he's saying that, yeah, I mean, if you measure the centrality, and you have the player with higher centrality, it is not saying that this player is good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Exactly. What is telling you that? It is telling you that this player is a player with the highest economic centrality in the network. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're right.
But I mean, like, how do you guys analyze, like, how do you guys analyze not only the match, but also like the players? Because what you're showing now, it's like the behavior of the players. But how do you show like which behaviors are best to get a better score or something? I don't know. I really have no idea how you do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is like the director of football that you have in a team, and they are, give me a ranking, give me a number. Who is the best player? Who is, I mean, you don't have an answer for that. I mean, it's a very complicated sport with many different variables. I'm just beginning to show you what you can measure. This is just the beginning. You will see later that you can do many, many things, completely different. And this is just one of the things that you can measure. One of the many. I mean, there are many of them. And this is the structure of the net. I mean, this is the kind of drawings that the coaches in first division or second division in Spain, they have for every match. And with this figure, they don't care about, I mean, they are not looking for the player who has the highest eigenvector centrality. They are looking for how the players were related between them. So for this figure for them is useful because they realize that there are two players, the two central players, they are very connected between them, and they have more passes between from Marco Valente to Babin. They have more players in this passes in this direction. So if the opponent puts a player in the middle, they are going to cut this connection, and probably we will have to move the ball in another way. So basically, the player passing networks are related to the way the players pass the ball between them. And it's, I mean, with a single image, you have an idea of how they pass the ball between them. But it's an idea, just an idea. And you can do many, many things, as I will tell you later. You will see it soon, okay? So this is not going to tell you who is the best player with this. I mean, you have many, many variables that are outside of the network. I mean, because you have many statistics that are not related with the network. The number of goals is, I mean, we don't have goals there. And probably the most important action in soccer is a goal. So the important thing is to score, and it is not there. So we are measuring another thing. In this case, the connection between players, but as you can see, for example, here you take the same information, the passes, and instead of considering the players as the nodes, you can divide the pitch into regions, and now the nodes are the regions. So it's the pitch that it is passing the ball to another part of the pitch with the same information. This is another kind of network with the same data. And here you have the spatial distribution of the passes of the team. So here you disregard the information about how players are connected between them, and now you are studying how the regions are connected between them. So it's like a puzzle. And you have like pieces of this puzzle, and this is one piece, the player passing network is another piece, classical statistics of soccer is another piece, and at the end you have this big picture with all the information to take decisions. This is what coaches want to do. I mean, coaches need this to take decisions. Okay? So yeah, I mean, here you can see what we call a pitch passing network. And as I mentioned before, I think I was here, and so the camera cannot follow me. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, so yeah, it's another way of projecting the passes. And as you can see here, nodes could be not players. In this case, are regions of the pitch. And it is telling you basically how a team is moving the ball. Of course, you can construct multi-layer networks, okay, where one layer is the pitch passing network of one team, another layer is the passing network of the other team, and then you have the interlinks between layers. I mean, when a team loses the ball and recovers the ball, then you have these interlayer links that go from one layer to the other. And you can do the classical multi-layer analysis or whatever you want to do. So, I mean, it makes sense to apply all the methodologies of network science to this kind of systems. You can construct more sophisticated networks, like here, for example, you have what we call a mixed model. A mixed model combines, in a mixed model, the nodes are players and positions in the pitch. It's a combination of the two things. So each node has two coordinates, the number of player and the position of the pitch. So there, you don't see it very well. Maybe you see it, I don't know. But here, you have the pitch divided into 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 7 regions. And player 1 passing in region 4 is one node. And player 1 passing in region 5 is another node. Player 1, so you have this kind of network that it doesn't have an spatial information there. You cannot plot it on the pitch because it contains different regions and players. And with that network, you can realize who is the important player in the network and where, who and where at the same time. So the node with the highest vector centrality can be player 7 in region 5. I don't know if it's more or less clear. So things are getting more sophisticated, and you can do many, many things. I mean, you can project that in another way. So what I wanted to tell you is that you can do many different things. And I will talk later, if I have time, yeah, I think so, about what we call tracking networks. In tracking networks, we have the position of the players, we have the movement of the players, instead the events, instead the passes. So in these networks, we use the information of the location of the place and the movement to construct different kind of networks that take into account this movement, the speeds, the alignment of speeds, the closeness between players. I will talk a little bit about it later. There are other kinds of networks, like, for example, these transfer networks, where here the nodes are the teams, and it's a transfer market of players. So you have connections when a team sells a player to another team. Okay? And with that, you can construct a network of teams and trying to understand how this transfer market works. Probably, I am not an expert on this topic, but probably we have the Brazilian teams sending a lot of players to Europe. So probably you can define here communities and do a community analysis and try to see how players move from one community to another, what are the important nodes inside certain communities, etc. So I'm trying to show you that you have different kind of networks of different nature, with players, with regions, in this case teams. And the analysis can be, I don't have to explain this slide for you. Okay? The analysis can be done at the macro scale, at the team level, at the whole network level. It can be done at the micro scale, at the node level, at the player level, and it can also be done at the meso scale. That it is the intermediate level, considering just groups, small groups of nodes. At the macro scale level, you can compute many parameters of the networks, like, for example, you take a pitch passing network. I will talk about it later, and measuring the clustering coefficient, the shortest path, the largest value, centrality dispersion, classical parameters of a network. Okay, this is the macro scale. You analyze the whole team. At the meso scale, you can analyze, for example, these sequences here. This is a sequence of passes. From player 2, the ball goes to player 4, then goes to player 5, then to player 6, then to player 4 again. So if you number the players with letters, so the first player is player A, the second player is player B, the third player is player C, the fourth player is player D. So you have motifs, like A, B, C, D, A, B, C, A. A, B, C, A, it is indicating that the fourth player is the same one that was the first player. So you have certain motifs, and you can analyze these motifs, the appearance of these motifs in the passing sequences, and trying to detect teams that use more motifs than others, and this kind of analysis. This could be an example of analysis at the mesoscale. And at the microscale, you just focus on the nodes, and you can measure, for example, between the centrality, the closeness centrality, the clustering coefficient of nodes, and you can construct rankings of the players, who is the player with the highest clustering coefficient, the highest page turn centrality, the highest clustering, etc. Okay? Yeah, this is something that you can do because you know these methodologies. As long as you have the data, you have your passing network, Then you use network X with your libraries, and you compute everything. What is the meaning of that? This is the crucial point. I mean, what is the meaning? How to interpret that? It's difficult, okay? So, yeah, I mean, here you have some references. I mean, if you are interested in general about how to apply network science and to sports, I recommend you especially the book of David Sumter that is called Soccermatics. It's a very nice book. David Sumter is a mathematician who has worked in biology, in analyzing ecosystems, and for many, many years, he has been collaborating with soccer clubs, and he wrote a very nice book called Soccermatics. I recommend you. He's talking there about nonlinear dynamic systems, networks, and data science and statistics in soccer. So this was the introduction, the first part of the lecture, and now we will go for the applications. Do you have any question, a general question? Because now we are going to details. Yeah.
Maybe you could talk about this, but you just not show nothing about the temporal component of your system.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering about the temporal component, because you have actually in the past network, for example, should be a temporal network. You are going to talk about this?
Yes.
Are you going to talk about this?
You have been spying my presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I will talk about this. I will talk about this. Yeah. The time there. Yeah. Okay. So I like when I give this talk. I have given this talk in many different audiences of, I mean, network scientists, people working in complex systems, coaches, football coaches. I've given this talk in La Liga, in the National League of Spain, and I mean, in many different contexts. I love to begin always the presentation with this sentence, okay? Football is like chess, but without dices. This is a very famous quote from Lukas Podolski. He was a great football player. He knows a lot about football, but it's clear that he doesn't know many things about other questions. Okay. Like, for example, chess, yeah? So I mean, why I like this sentence? Because it's telling you that, okay, guy, maybe you know a lot about football, but you need people who know about other things, because you don't know about everything, okay? And here's where we can say something. I mean, network scientists can say something. I mean, if you want to understand the complex nature of soccer, if you want to understand this complex connection between players, you need someone that works in complex systems, someone that understands what is a network, how to create, and how to analyze them, okay? And I think we have a space, there's a space for us to collaborate with these people, okay? Of course, we are not going to solve everything, but we are going to, as I said before, we are going to add more pieces to this puzzle to understand this whole picture of soccer, because soccer is a very complex sport. Okay, so basically, what do we do? I mean, this is the classical analysis of a player. You have a player, and you have the statistics of this player. The number of passes, the number of goals, the number of shots, the number of faults, the number of whatever. You have numbers there, okay? But these numbers doesn't have any context, okay? So if you have a success rate in the passes of 90%, and you have another player that has a success rate in passes of 85%, you may think that the one that has 90% is better than the other one. But maybe it's not. Because, for example, player with a lower success ratio in the passes is a player that is playing very close to the opponent's goal, and it is, for example, the player that is sending the ball to the center of the goal and to the forward player, and it doesn't matter if he loses 3 passes. If he connects 1 and they score, it's okay. So the context is very important. And you don't have the context in the classical analysis. I like to plot this guy, Esteban Granero. Esteban Granero, he's retired now. I know him personally. He played in Real Madrid. He played in the national team of Spain, also in Espanyol. He played in the Premier League also. And now he runs a company about artificial intelligence in sports. He's a very brilliant guy. He's a football player that reads books. It's amazing. And yeah, he created a company specialized in applied artificial intelligence in soccer. And this is not, it didn't come with the hype of the AI. I mean, he did that like 8 or, close to 10 years ago. So he was, a pioneer in this kind of analysis. So basically, what I try to do when I approach a team, a soccer team or a national league or federation or whatever, is to convince them that, that soccer is a complex system, and they agree with that. Yeah, it's a complex system. That the more information we have about this system, the better decisions that you can make, okay? And that probably you should analyze the team as a whole with the classical perspective of a complex system. I mean, if you want to gain information or new information, complementary to the classical one, you have to introduce this perspective of complexity science. So when I say this to a coach or to a director of football of a certain team, they agree with me. They say, okay, yes, you are right. Soccer is a complex system. You are right. The more information I have, better decisions. Yeah, you are right. I mean, I have to understand the interaction between players. Yeah. But then, when I explain everything, they agree. We will call you. Sure, next week we will call you, and they never call you. Okay? This is basically what happens in 90% of the times. They never call you. Okay? Why? Why they never call you? Why a scientist that comes from a group with a certain background is not called by these people? Because probably they should think, okay, this guy is very intelligent and he knows a lot about data analysis. Let's go to hire him and let's go to win all matches. Okay? Why they don't do that? Because they think about us like this. This is a match between 3 professional players and 100 children. Okay? It is like an experiment. I mean, when they look at us, scientists, they think that we do these kind of things. Okay? They think that we construct models that doesn't make sense. This is a model where you can see 3 players that are professional players, and you have 100 children, and they are playing ones against the other. So they think that what we do is very interesting, but it is not useful. Okay? This is what they think when they have a scientist try to convince them to work with them. I mean, for me, the most funny part of the video is when you see the goalkeepers. Now, that you see a lot of players there, and you know that it's going to be a disaster because they don't have more than 1.5 meters. Okay. Okay. I won't show you the end of the video, but you can imagine, okay? So, I mean, we have a problem because they don't trust on us. They don't trust on us, okay? They think we run models that are not useful. So the first thing we have to do is to be very close to the real data. We have to convince that what we are doing is useful and it is very connected to reality, okay? It is not abstract. So it is very important to work with real data. And you have basically 3 levels of data in soccer. In fact, we have 4, okay? But the level 4, I would talk maybe in the coffee break with you if you are interested in that, okay? But it is quite new. But basically, you have 3 levels. The classical statistics, number of shots, number of passes, percentage of success of the passes, number of tackles, number of duels won, etc. Statistics. This data is free. You can get it on the internet for free. There are many, many web pages where you have data about all the teams, all the competitions, and you can do analysis about that. The second level is the event data. In the event data, the second level, you have all the information about the actions that you have in the pitch. All the actions are tagged with the spatial coordinates, temporal coordinates, the outcome of the action, and the players involved. For example, if you have an aerial duel between 2 players, you know where is it, the 2 players involved, who won this duel, okay? If you have a shot, you have the location of the shot, at which moment, if I shot to the goal here, I know that I put the ball here, okay? It was stopped, it was saved by the goalkeeper. So you have the information about everything that happens in the pitch. This is the event. And in the tracking level, is the third level, you just have the coordinates of the location of the players and the ball. That's all. You don't know what is happening, but you have the location.
Do they record the speed of the players?
Yes.
Yes, at every node, let's call it what you have.
Exactly.
It will be also the speed of each player.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
because you can you see that tracking there? You have the location, the third level, the tracking. You have the location, okay? You have the time step. I don't have to explain you more. I mean, if you have the location and the time step, you do the derivative and you have the speed. You do the derivative and you have the acceleration. So I have the speed, the acceleration. It's there. The information is there. In the location, you have the speed and you have the acceleration at every single moment. Yeah. This data is great. I mean, this is the best data that you can, not the best, but yeah, probably the best, close to the best, okay? So this is very important. You have to take into account what kind of data you have. Okay, I'm going to speed up because if not, I'm not going to finish. So if you work with the statistics, you are not going to do very fancy things. I mean, this data is free. You don't have to pay for it, accessible to anyone. So the good thing is to play with the event data. You have to pay for it. And the tracking data, you have to pay much more for it. Okay, it's expensive. But if you can get this data, it's great. So let's go to see some examples. We are going to analyze the events. We are working with these events, okay? And we are going to apply network science to this event. So what you can do there, you buy the data, okay? In this data, the event data, you have all the information about the actions that are occurring during a match, all the actions. All of them are tagged there. So basically, if you have all the actions, what would you do? A normal person would focus on goals, okay? On shots, because this is the most important event you have in a match. Shots, and there you have all shots during a competition, and you have, of these shots, you can divide them between the attempts that were saved, missed, or the goals. And you can do analysis about that, okay? But we disregard this information because we are network scientists. We like interactions, and a goal it is not an interaction. So we focus on passes. So for every single pass, we have the time, the second of the match. We have the team that is doing the pass, the player that is initiating the pass, the coordinates, and the player that receives the ball. And then we have another pass, and then we have another pass. And we also know if the pass is completed or not. Okay? So we are going to work only with this. I mean, we are disregarding the shots, the goals, the faults, the tackles, everything, just the passes. I mean, we are disregarding a lot of information. But I want to show you that just with that, you can do many, many things. Okay? So if you plot that, this is what you have. I mean, these are the passes of FC Barcelona during a match. It seems quite random. Okay? It's like throwing the passes like this. In fact, we measure the randomness of these passes. Okay? You can measure the spatial entropy of the passes. You can construct a model and try to see if these passes, the real passes are here. These are the real passes of a match. And there are different models that leads you to a very clustered passes, completely random, and very regular. And you can measure that with the spatial centrality. Okay? And if you compare the reality with these models, you realize that, in fact, the real passes are quite random, very close to the value of entropy 1, that it is indicating you that it is quite random. Okay? So you can measure the entropy of the passes. You can measure the entropy of every single player, of the actions of every single player, the goalkeepers, the rest of the players. You can evaluate how this entropy is displayed along the pitch. Where are the parts of the pitch where you have more entropy in the passes, okay? And you can use that to analyze a team like, for example, Real Madrid, and put the network of Real Madrid at the cover of the journal Entropy. Okay? This is the application of this analysis, putting Real Madrid in the cover of the journal Entropy. Okay? Why? Because if I go to a coach and I say, okay, you have to increase the entropy of your team, because I realize that teams with high entropy, I mean, this player, the entropy of this player is very low. They are going to kill me. Okay. It doesn't have any application at all. Okay? Apart from the scientific application. I mean, yeah, if you're a physicist, you want to measure the entropy. Come on, you have to do that. Okay? So we did that, and we knew that it was not going to be useful. But it is not telling you that you have to do that. We want to understand how soccer is organized. What are the rules of this soccer? Okay? So there's a space for a lot of works like this that are not going to be applied, but are very interesting from the scientific point of view. And of course, they are going to be published. Don't think that, the referees are going to say, come on, it's soccer. It's not interesting. It is interesting. Okay? It was in the cover of Entropy, where another, okay, it's MDPI. I know the reputation is not the best, but I mean, these kind of analyses are very interesting, in fact, from the scientific point of view. I mean, you have to think in the scientific point of view and the application. It's okay. I mean, maybe it doesn't have an application, but it can be interesting at the same time. So let's go to an applied thing, okay? Measuring the passes. This is FC Barcelona playing against Real Madrid, and this is an example of what happens when FC Barcelona plays against Real Madrid. We counted the passes between them. You can see that the players of FC Barcelona are passing the ball. The players of Real Madrid don't know what is happening. And suddenly, there's another pass from Iniesta to Xavi, and there's a goal, okay? And the players of Real Madrid are like this meme-like. So what we are doing here, we are counting the passes between pairs of players, and we are constructing the player passing network as I mentioned before. And with this idea, we went to FC Barcelona. Okay? We went to La Masia. La Masia is the youth academy of FC Barcelona. And this guy in the middle is Paco Seirulo. Paco Seirulo is one of the most brilliant persons that I have ever met. He was the physical coach of Johan Cruyff. I mean, you are very young, but Johan Cruyff was probably one of the best coaches in the history of soccer. Also a very good soccer player. So Paco Seirulo was the physical coach of Johan Cruyff. He was also the physical coach of Pep Guardiola when Pep Guardiola was in FC Barcelona. And he has been there for 40 years. And he was supervising the youth academy of FC Barcelona. We contacted them. He was very interested in applying network science to trying to describe how FC Barcelona was playing. So we initiated a project with FC Barcelona analyzing the way FC Barcelona, coached by Guardiola, was playing. Okay? Of course, they knew how this team was playing. Of course, they knew how they train, what were the basic rules, the playing rules, etc. Okay? But they wanted to know if you could capture that with network science. Okay? So we began a project analyzing data of FC Barcelona. And the first thing we realized is something that Silvio realized also. That you can construct the network, you can measure many, many things, like, I don't know, this is spatial information, like the coordinates. Here you have the clustering coefficient, the shortest path. Left bar, FC Barcelona, right bar, rivals. So you can see many, many differences. But one important thing, the crucial thing about this work was that the network changes in time. Okay? Because the network, I showed you before, is the network for the whole match. But you know, like a match is like a roller coaster. I mean, you have moments very high, then you're playing worse and the high, and so you have phases during a match. Okay? This is something that you can see in a very simple way. You just take a match and you plot the passing the passing network of the first part and the passing network of the second part, and they are not identical. It's the same team, but they are different. You have differences. This is Barça, this is Valencia. They are different. And this is something Always happens. Networks change in time. In fact, if you define a temporal window and then construct the network in this temporal window, and then you slide the window, you can see things like this. I mean, you can see, this is a window with, I think, 50 passes. And you let the match to evolve, you can see that the networks are changing. They are changing. They are reorganizing. They have new passes, different from the previous one. Some of them are different, others not. So you have time there, and you have to take into account that. So what did we do? We constructed a network of 50 passes. It was very difficult to arrive to this number, but we decided to construct a network of 50 passes of a team, and then we slide this network during the match. So when there was a new pass, we disregarded the oldest pass, and we included the new one and calculated everything for this network, and then we did it again and again and again and again and again. So you have a fluctuation of everything. So you can calculate the clustering coefficient of a team, but you can also calculate the temporal clustering coefficient. And what you have is this. You have fluctuations. I mean, the clustering coefficient is not constant. You have fluctuations. And these fluctuations are related to many, many things. Many, many things. Maybe things that we don't have an explanation. Or maybe things that we have an explanation. Imagine you have a goal. If one team scores, the network is going to change. It makes sense. If you have a substitution, for example, it makes sense. Okay? So what did we do? We calculated everything in a temporal way. Like you can see here, the clustering coefficient is, for example, that in red you have Valencia. It's increasing. So you have more triangles. Okay? Barcelona is more or less equal along the, it's fluctuating in the same way. But I mean, whatever you can calculate a long time. So what did we do? We said, okay, if we can calculate everything a long time, let's, for example, calculate the clustering coefficient a long time. And when there's a goal, when Barcelona scores a goal, I'm going to measure the clustering coefficient at this moment. And when Barcelona receives a goal, I'm going to calculate the clustering coefficient at this moment. And I do the average. And now imagine that the average of the clustering coefficient when I score a goal is 0.8, and when I receive a goal is 0.5. It is telling me that maybe the clustering coefficient is related with that, with the probability of receiving or scoring a goal. Or maybe not. Imagine that the clustering coefficient when I score a goal is 0.8, and when I receive a goal is 0.8. So it is not related to the probability of scoring a goal. And you can do that for all the parameters, network parameters that you can think about. So this is what we did with FC Barcelona. We compared many different parameters. We realized that FC Barcelona was a completely different team from the rest. It was always an extreme team in all the parameters we obtained. And combining all of them, we obtained like a description from the network science about how networks of FC Barcelona were constructed. Okay? We published that in scientific reports, and we received a lot of citations. It was amazing. This paper was mentioned on Spanish television a lot, also in Italy, in Germany, in many, many different places. The scientific reports, it was they published like 10,000 papers every year, and this was the number 26 in downloads. I received a diploma from scientific reports, so it has a lot of attention. I think because it was science there, the term science, and Guardiola and FC Barcelona also in the title, so people was interested about that. So this kind of analysis, it is interesting. People are interested about that, okay? Another thing that you can do with the events, analyzing events, you can construct the pitch networks, the ones that I mentioned before, okay? You split the pitch into several regions, and you compute the passes between the regions. Here, I don't know if you realize, you have loops. Can you see these loops there? In a player-person network, you don't have a loop. But here, yes, you have a loop. A loop, it is indicated that you have short passes inside the region. when a pass begins and ends in the same region, you have a loop, okay? I mean, it is not important, but you can see that there are differences. So you can construct these networks and try to understand or analyze them. But what happens when you construct this network? You have a problem. I mean, you have many, many problems, but one problem is a very nice problem for a physicist, and it's the following, the problem of the scale. Here you have a match between Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, and you have 3 networks for Real Madrid and 3 networks for FC Barcelona. What is the difference between the 3 networks? The scale. What is the scale? The number of divisions that I make. So in plot A, it's a 3 by 3, so it's 9 divisions. Plot B, it's 5 by 5, 25 divisions. C is 20 by 20, 400 divisions. So it's the same data, but different networks. Which one is the best? I don't know. I don't know. What is the adequate scale? What is the scale capturing more information? I don't know. And this is a nice problem for a physicist. I mean, detecting what is the right scale. So with that, we went to the National League, La Liga, and we proposed them a project. We said, we are going to analyze how teams play. We want to understand how are the networks of passes of teams. And basically, what we did is to translate a concept that comes from neuroscience, the concept of network identifiability. There's a very nice paper with Massimiliano Zanin and me, with, I think, 2 citations. Nobody cares about this problem. It's amazing. I love this problem, but nobody cares. And it's a very simple problem. Can you identify a person just by having a look at the network of connections in the brain of this person? This is the problem of the network identifiability. And there are different ways of defining this network identifiability. There's a structural identifiability, functional, meta-identifiability. There are very different ways or complementary ways of defining the concept of identifiability. But all of them share the same main idea, and it's the following. I give you one network, for example, this one, and I ask you, is this FC Barcelona or Real Madrid? And what do you think? Can I know it or not? Or is it impossible? I mean, this is the question that we wanted to answer with the data of La Liga. We wanted to know if there are teams that they have their own networks, and maybe teams that they don't have and I am advancing the result. I mean, what you will see is that there are teams that you can recognize the network, and there are other teams that it's impossible. Okay? So we translated the concept of identifiability. Basically, what you do is you project all the information of the passes into adjacency matrix at different scales. So for every single match, for each team, we construct the network of 25 nodes, of 50 nodes, of 60 nodes, arriving to 400 nodes. So we are investigating all the scales. And we do the following. First of all, we measure the consistency of the team. The consistency, it's a very simple concept. You take only the networks of a team. Imagine this is a network of passes of a team for a complete season. So you have 38. And you basically measure the correlation between these networks. If the correlation is high, imagine you always have the same network. The correlation is high, very close to 1, so they are playing always in the same way. If a certain match is different, so the correlation is going to decrease. And it can be even negative. Okay? So basically, we take the networks of each team, and we compute the correlation. It is called the consistency. If you have a very high consistency, it is telling you that you are always playing the same way. Okay? If you have a very low consistency, it is telling you that every match you play using a different network. Okay? So is consistency necessary to identify a team? The answer is yes. I mean, if you give me a network and you want me to detect the team that created this network, the team has to be consistent. Because if not, I mean, if he plays in a different way every day, I mean, how can I know that it is this team? It has to have a signature, a particular way of moving the ball. But probably you realize that it is not the only ingredient for identifying a team. Because imagine that FC Barcelona and Real Madrid play exactly in the same way. If they play in the same way, despite they are only two teams, you don't know which one is it. Because you can be very consistent, but if another team is consistent in the same way, it's very difficult to distinguish. So to identify the teams, you need to have a very high consistency with yourself and a very low correlation with the others. So you have to play in a way that no one is playing. This is the idea of identifiability. Okay? Do you understand? It's a bit different. Okay? So we measure that for all teams on all scales, and we obtain something like this. This is FC Barcelona, and this is Rayo Vallecano. Okay? Someone had to talk about Rayo Vallecano. It's a lovely team, but it was relegated that season. It was the last team in the ranking. And what do you have here in these plots? Horizontal axis, the number of nodes, the partitions, is the scale, and you have the identifiability for every single scale. And you can see something very interesting. The identifiability is low when the number of nodes is low. But then it increases, it arrives to a maximum and then decreases. This is telling you that if your division is very high, it's not going, you are losing information about the identification of a team. If it is very low, you are losing information, and there's an intermediate scale where you have the most information. Okay? But this is only for FC Barcelona. What happens with Rayo Vallecano? Nothing. We don't have anything. We cannot identify this team at any scale. So there are teams that are identifiable and others that it's very difficult. We did that with all the teams in the league. We realized that there were some teams that this identifiability was somehow related with the ranking of the teams, with the probability of being relegated. We realized that there was like a cluster of 3 clusters where we detected FC Barcelona and Real Madrid. They were different from the others, very high identifiability. Then we had Real Betis, Eibar, and the other one was Atlético de Madrid. And then we had the rest of the teams. Okay? You can do that, for example, here. We did it. This is a 2-dimensional plot because we do it at the matches that you play at home and the matches that you play away. Okay? You can separate the matches between playing at home and away, and you can try to detect if a team plays in a more consistent way at home or away. And you can also translate this idea to specific matches and try to detect in which matches you played in the way you used to play. And this is a very useful information for the coaches because they realize when they are playing in their own way or when the other team, the opponent, imposed the way of playing and they had to adapt. Okay? I don't have time to explain this figure in detail, but it's very nice with a lot of colors because I want you to mention something in this last half an hour about the tracking networks that I love a lot. What is tracking networks? Everything I mentioned up to now is networks, but these networks are constructed with events. Okay? But I told you that we have also this tracking data. Okay? The tracking data is the movement of the players, the location of all the players on the ball during a match. How do we obtain that? We obtain this data from La Liga. We are collaborators of La Liga. In the first and second division stadiums in Spain, but also in the Premier League, Bundesliga, and the main leagues, they have a system of cameras that triangulate the position, the location of all players on the ball at every single moment. And we have the position of each player with a resolution less than 10 centimeters. So a very good precision. And we have 25 frames per second. So it is very well resolved in time and in space. This data is very, very good. I mean, during 90 minutes, during all the competition, and we can do many, many things with it. Like, for example, as Hilda mentioned before, we can measure the speed and try to see what happens with the speed, with the accelerations, etc. So it's a very nice data. This is what you observe during a match, teams passing the ball, and this is what we observe down there. We have these points that are the players, and and the ball, and they are passing the ball, and this is what we have. I'm going to do a spoiler. I mentioned 3 levels of data: the statistics, the events, and the tracking. The tracking was the highest up to this season. This season, something changed in La Liga and also in the major competitions. We have the information about the skeleton of the players. Okay, the skeleton. Okay, what is this? You can see. I mean, this information. I mean, this kind of data is great. You can do many, many things, as I will show you. But now the players are points. When you teach physics for the first-year students, this is dynamics of a particle. So it is not the solid rigid. Okay? But I mean, players are people that they have legs, arms, and they have a body. Since this year, we have the body. So I have the data at every single frame of the body of the players. So the hips, the shoulder, I can see where they are looking at. So it's going to change the rules of analysis since this year. We are still trying to understand what can we analyze, because we can do many, many things with that. Okay? So up to now, for me, this data was impressive, but the data that we have now, it's much more than that, and probably you will see in the years to come new kinds of analysis in soccer using this skeleton data. Okay, but let's go for the tracking data. We have the location of this data, basically the X, Y, and Z coordinates. So we have also the height of the ball, and we also know if a player is jumping. We have it there, okay? So with that, we can do plots like this, okay? This is a play where you can see that the players are passing the ball. But yeah, I mean, I see a pass there, but I don't have the tag. I mean, I have to construct a program that extract a pass from there. I mean, it's simple, but you have to do it. You have to do it, okay? You can do whatever you want to do, because you have many information there that you can see. For example, this raster that you have behind the ball of the players, it's the location during half a second. So if the raster is longer during half a second, the distance that you have covered is longer. It is indicating to you that you are running faster. So with this raster, you can see the players that are running faster than the others. You can see that the ball moves faster than the players. You can analyze, for example, the speeds, many, many things, okay? So with that, you can do, if we are network scientists, you can do many, many things. And we did many, many things. But we are going to talk just about networks. So we introduced the concept. It was a completely new concept, the concept of tracking networks. Nobody did it before us, because normally people were analyzing these passing networks with the events, but they didn't have the tracking. So what we did is, okay, let's construct the interactions between the players based on the tracking, not based on the events. And in this way, we're going to construct these tracking networks. And the tracking networks can be very different. There are different ways of defining tracking networks. So there's a group. Tracking networks, it's a group of different networks that are based on the tracking of the players. And I'm going to show you some examples. So the first one is the signed proximity networks. What is this? Very simple. You take a player, for example, this player here, okay? I focus in this player. So this player of team blue, and we have the team orange, okay? So I draw a circle of radius r around this player, and if there's a player inside this radius, I create a link. If the player is of the opponent team, this link is negative, okay? So I have a negative link. If I increase the radius, I have one positive link more and one negative link more. So I have two negatives and one positive. If I increase the radius, I have the previous links and a new one. If I increase the radius, I have more and more links. Do you understand it? I mean, it's a very simple idea. Okay, very simple idea. Okay, so it's a signed proximity network. It's a network of proximity. I connect to you if you are very close to me, with a sign. If we play in the same team, positive. If you are a rival, negative. Okay? So with that, you can analyze these kind of networks. Like, this is a network for the same frame. So it's the same situation in the pitch. But if the radius is 5, you have this network. If the radius is 10, you have this. If it is 15, you have this. And they are different. And you can analyze that. You can do many, many things. You can do, for example, percolation here, if you want. You can do many, many things, classical things that come from network science. One example of the things that you can do. This is one of the many things. This is something we did with Ernesto Estrada. Okay? So analyze the triangles. It is curious because you only have 4 possible triangles. Only 4 possible. The positive triangles where all the players are of the same team, so all the connections are positive, and the mixed triangles. Here you have 2 teams, Atlético de Madrid in orange and Real Valladolid in blue. So you have a positive triangle of Atlético de Madrid where all the connections are positive because all players are from Atlético de Madrid. You have a positive triangle of Valladolid where all connections are positive because all players are from Valladolid. And then you have these mixed triangles with 2 negatives and 1 positive, with dominance of Atlético de Madrid or with dominance of Valladolid. It is, I mean, if you think it, it's very easy to understand that it is impossible to have a complete negative triangle. I mean, you cannot have negative, negative, and negative. I mean, if they are enemies, they play in the same team, so they have to then have a positive link. So it is the only possibility. You have 4 triangles. So if you analyze the number of triangles, depending on the radius, remember that the higher the radius, the higher the number of links, and the number of triangles is going to increase. So it increases. It increases. But what happens? If we compare the triangles, we realize that Atlético de Madrid always have a higher number of triangles than Valladolid. In the positive triangles are also in the mixed triangles. So they are placed in the pitch in a way that the players are closer between them. And this has benefits in the way they play, because you have a dominance in the number of players over the pitch. Okay? Let's go to another example. Let's go to analyze other kinds of networks. So first of all, I need to talk about the speed. Hilda, please don't go now that I'm going to talk about the speed. No, don't worry. I'm joking. Yeah. One thing that you can do is to measure the speed of the players during the match. This is a probability distribution function of the speeds of the players. This is FC Barcelona. And it's amazing because many people in soccer, they didn't see before these kind of representations. It was amazing to show them, and they were so surprised about this behavior. I mean, it's very simple to understand, but they didn't know that. Look, this is a simple classical probability distribution function. It's telling you what is the probability of observing a certain speed. What can we see? Just having a fast look at the plots. Can you see a peak, a very clear peak everywhere for all players? This peak is at 5 kilometers per hour. What is 5 kilometers per hour? This, I'm going to show you. This is 5 kilometers per hour. Sorry, I didn't mention it. This is measured with the ball on play, just with the ball on play, okay? So the thing that players do the most is to walk. They walk a lot, especially this guy, Leo Messi, the one in La Liga with the highest peak in walking, the one with the highest one, okay? Apart from the goalkeepers, okay? The goalkeepers have a very also. I knew that there was going to be an Argentinian saying something about it. We knew that, but something that we didn't know is the following. Look, can you see a second peak everywhere? Everywhere, smaller? This second peak, it's at 10 kilometers per hour. 10 kilometers per hour is this. This is 10 kilometers per hour. is running. Is what I do on Sunday mornings in the park, okay? I mean, it's running, but not too much. So this is the second thing that they do the most, running. To recover the position, to go to places that it is not very important to run very fast, okay? This is something that all players have except Leo Messi. Leo Messi doesn't have this second peak of running. He doesn't need to run. He goes walking. I'm joking, but there's something there's something about it. No. He's not the one that runs faster. But you are pointing to. Yeah. I mean, this huge peak of Messi is the one of walking. Take it into account, okay? But of course, I mean, the important things are the tails of the distribution, because are the sprints, and you have very few sprints. Of course, these sprints will be related with goal locations, with something very demanding, crucial actions. For sure, I agree with you that the most important thing is happening there. But nobody pay attention to this, and for me, it is very interesting to have a look at what players are doing when they are not sprinting, okay? Okay, so this is the speed, how players move in general in a match. You can go for a match and compute the average speed of the two teams that are playing a match. And you can compute the speed when they are defending and when they are attacking. I didn't mention that. We have an important, very important information in the tracking data that it is if the ball is on play or not. So we have the location of players, and we know for every single frame if the ball is on play or not. And we also know who has the ball, what team has the ball. So we know if they are defending or attacking. And you can compute the average speed of the teams when they are defending and attacking. Here you have Real Madrid and Leganés. This is a match between Real Madrid and Leganés. And you can see that in both cases, the speed, each circle is speed, average speed, defending and attacking, defending and attacking. You can see that when a team defends, runs faster in average. This is something very general in soccer. So when you are defending, you are running faster. When you are attacking in average, you are running slower. Apart from that, you can see that here is Real Madrid and here is Leganés. So Leganés runs a bit more, faster than Real Madrid. It is telling you that they are better. No, I mean, it is telling you that they run faster. What is the interpretation? Depends. Why Real Madrid is running less? It depends. I don't know. I'm not sure about it. It's the coach who knows. Maybe they are less fit than the others, or maybe they don't need to run. I don't know. So the interpretation, we have to be very careful, but at least we can describe what is happening there. And one nice thing is that, okay, this is the average of the team, but how did I compute that? Because I have the average of every single player, so let's pay attention to each single player. So we can go to each player and see how much they run when they are defending and how much they run when they are attacking. And you can see that, I mean, the red circle is defending, and the blue circle is when they are attacking. You can see that in both teams, the red circle is over the blue circle for all players. For all players, except yeah, the goalkeeper is special. I mean, they have. I mean, it has the same point there. There are two players here that it's the opposite. Can you see it? Benzema. It's the opposite, and Asensio. The two forward players, they do it in the other way. They run more when they are attacking. But this is something typical from just for the forward players. The forward players run faster when they are attacking. But the rest of the players, defenders and midfielders, they run faster when they are defending. Okay? The same in Leganés. Okay, let's pass that. I don't have time. So something I don't have time to explain, but I mean, it's great to have this kind of audience, is that the velocity is a vector. This is something that was very hard to explain in La Liga, in the National League, that the velocity is a vector, because they didn't realize about that. And it has very strong implications that it is a vector. Because when you define the acceleration, you have that tangent acceleration and the normal acceleration. You have two accelerations. The one that measures the change in the modulus and the one that measures the change in directions. And they don't know that. For them, an acceleration is the change of the modulus of the speed. They don't know that when you change the direction of the speed, you have an acceleration, the normal acceleration. And it is related with injuries and with many, many things. And we are working now on that, on trying to understand what is the normal acceleration of players. That what has been disregarded for many, many years. Something that is very basic for first-year students in physics. Okay? So the speed is a vector, so you can measure also the direction of the movement of the players. So what is the average angle of their movements? Okay? Trying to see if they are moving more in parallel to the opponent's goal or they are moving more forward to the opponent's goal. So you can do this kind of analysis. But why I'm talking about the speed? Because we are going to use the speed to construct the networks. And this is the second example I want to show you. The first one was these synced proximity networks. And now I'm going to talk about the functional coordination networks. What are these networks? We are going to take these speeds of the players. We're going to select two players. We're going to compute the speed. And if the speeds are aligned, if they are running in the same direction, we are going to quantify that and we are going to create a link. We're going to measure how much time two players have been running in the same direction. Okay? In this way, we are measuring coordination of the players. We do that for all players of the same team. Now the connections are between the players of the same team. In the signal proximity networks, we have connections with players of the same team and the opponent team. Now, just with the same team, and you have this kind of matrices. This is the time that a player has been running in the same direction of another player of the same team. Okay? During the defensive phase and during the offensive phase, when defending and when attacking. The more time that you have been aligned or synchronized or running in the same direction, however you want to call it, the yellowish that you have there. Okay? So can you see that the offensive coordination is more blue? Can you see it? That here you have more blue than here. Okay? And blue, it is telling you that the coordination has been lower. So what happens here? During the offensive phase, and this is a conclusion of the analysis, the teams are less coordinated. So it's like, we are attacking, well, everybody's running in different directions. We are defending, let's move all together. Let's go back together. The ball is moving to the right. Everybody to the right, everybody to the left. Okay, this is normal, and it happens in all the teams. And of course, you have a matrix. If you have a matrix, you have a network. So this is a network. You can plot it, and you can. Okay, this is the difference between them. So you can plot these networks of coordination during the defensive phase and during the attacking phase, and try to understand who are the players that are coordinating more or less during a match, and try to see from match to match, and try to understand if they coordinated well or not. Okay. Marking networks. Another example. What is a marking network? In this case, we are going to see the interactions between opponent players. So we are going to analyze the defenders. So when a team is defending, I'm going to see who I am defending, and I'm going to compute this time. How I do that? Very simple way. I take a defender, I make a radius of 1.5 meters, and when the speed, I have an opponent player inside, and the speeds are aligned, I count this time and I say, I am defending you. So it is like I am following a player. So I have a player here and I am following him. We are moving in the same direction. So it's, I mean, there are many ways of defining a player. This is just one of the ways that you can define a player. Okay? And we call it marking network. We measure these times. This is the marking network of Leganés, a team that, this is a match between Real Madrid and Leganés, and this is the time that these defenders were defending the opponents of Real Madrid. And you can see, for example, that this guy here, Bustinza, the third one below, has been defending Benzema a lot because it is yellow. And you can see that Omeru has been defending Benzema also. Just with that, you have, okay, yeah, 10 minutes, no? 15, okay. Yeah, I think I have 10. So just with that, you can see more or less who has defended who, okay? And also in the other way, I mean, if you look it in the columns, you see a defender and who has been defending. And if you have a look in rows, you can see who defended each guy in Real Madrid. For example, if I go to Benzema, I see that he has been defended by Bustinza, by Siobas, Masomeru, by Omeru, okay? This is a matrix, so I can plot it. It is a network. It is a matrix, it is a network. So if I plot that, I can make a very nice drawing with a lot of information. This is what we call a marking network. And in a single image, I have the distribution of defenses during the match. I can see how Benzema was defended between Bustinza, Omeru, and Siobas, how Siobas was also defending Asensio, how Asensio was defended by Silva, how Bustinza was also defending Isco. And with a single image, the coach has an idea about how was the defending phase of his team. And make conclusions and say, okay, Bustinza, you did it very well because I told you to help Omeru, but you also had to defend Isco. Or maybe not. Maybe say, Bustinza, what were you doing defending Benzema? You had to defend Isco, I told you. Isco scored 2 goals. It's your fault. Okay? I don't know. I mean, the explanation of this is very hard, but it has to come from the technical coaches. Okay? And finally, another example of these tracking networks are the ball flow networks where we just follow the ball. We do a division of the pitch like we did before in the case of the pitch passing networks, but in that case, we're just passes. Now we have everything because it's the ball. So a pass is considered here when it's the tracking, it's the ball that is moving, but also a conduction. When there's a player conducting and moving the ball from one region to another, we didn't have it before when in a passing network. Now we have it. And with that, we can try to describe how the ball was moved by a team. How, for example, this team entered and from where enter the opponent's area, for example. Okay? Or how the ball was moved from their own goal. I mean, how it was moved forward. Okay? Or, for example, we could do a similar analysis of the identifiability analysis, taking into account this kind of networks. So, yes, I mean, more or less I finalized with that. I have like 10 minutes, but we can finish maybe 5 minutes before. So, I mean, I didn't want to do a very serious description of the field. I just want you to, I wanted you to give you an impression about the things that you can do with this data and also with the knowledge of network science. I think we can do many, many things. And we can help coaches and national leagues, federations, teams to better understand what is happening in soccer. So it's a field that it is developing right now. We are defining new methodologies right now, and they need network scientists because they don't know how to analyze this data. We cannot trust Lukas Podolski in the analysis. Is it going to be useful? Yes. Let me tell you that it's yes. It is being right now useful. La Liga, for example, is implementing part of this analysis into the reports that they give from match to match to all football teams. And is it changing the way football is played? The answer is no. For the moment, we are helping to understand what is happening in soccer. But we are not changing soccer. And you may think, okay, I mean, how do you want to change soccer? I mean, it's impossible. Scientists cannot change soccer. It happened in basketball, okay? Basketball has changed due to data analysis, okay? Look, this is the distribution of shots in NBA 2001, and this is the distribution of shots, most frequent shots 2019. 20 years of difference, okay? What is the main difference? You can see here that you have shots from middle distances here. What happens here? You don't have any shot. This is the location, the 200 top locations, okay? Of course they shot from here, but it is very strange to see a shot from there, okay? The way they shot has changed completely in the last 20 years. And the question is why? Because the players felt more comfortable shooting from the three-point line here? The answer is no. The answer is because the players were told by the analysts that they had to do it in this way. That when they were very close to the three-point line, they had to go back and throw it from there. Why? Because the probability of scoring is lower, but the gain is 3 instead of 2, just by a difference of 1 meter. And in the long run, it is worth. Statistically, it is worth. So players were told not to do that. They were told to throw from the three-point line and to throw very close to the basket also. Okay? So in basketball, the way teams played changed due to the analysis, to the data analysis. This is something that in soccer, it didn't happen for the moment. Okay? Okay, so here you have some references if you are interested in this topic, but anyway, please give me a call, send me a message. I am very accessible and I like to collaborate to anyone that is interested in the topic. And that's all. Pablo, finished. Thank you very much.
Time for questions. I have a first question, sorry. Why you tell soccer to football? Are we in the United States or?
United States, yeah.
Why
soccer.
You call soccer?
Because
in Spanish.
in the community they call it soccer.
Come on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very precise, your lecture. But I got a few questions, much more about the methodologies than specifically like the analysis and everything. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, I mean, like when we watch soccer games, when we watch basket games, anything, we don't see like the players walking around with tons of like Apple Watches or I don't know, like any kind of tech on them because I mean like this, like you're using there to the camera follow you. So I was wondering how, like all your analyses are based only on footage or no, like there's, which systems are used to collect these kind of data? I was wondering how the collection of data is done on this kind of field, because at least talking here with my colleagues, since we are ecologists, this is a very big problem we have, like trying to capture those data from animals and other things. I mean, like humans are much more easy, but also athletes are in their peak, they're in the best, they're always running away and everything else. I mean, like, how do you do to collect such data?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It depends on the data. I mean, as I mentioned, there are different kinds of data. Basically, you have, I mean, in the advanced data analysis, you have the event data and the tracking data. Let's go to the event data. It's amazing that the event data is recorded manually, okay? So this data, you can buy it to companies. You have to pay for it, okay? And how do they record the data? They have 3 people watching a match. They have computers, they have a screen, they have a special keyboard, and they are watching the match on the TV, on the television, broadcasted match, okay? And they have like a tablet with the pitch, and when they see a pass, they translate it by hand. What is the location? You can think about what is the precision of this data. Different, for example, different providers, they have different data. At every single match, for example, I have 654 passes in one provider. In another provider, I have 650. 4 passes of difference. Why? Because one provider considered it was a pass, other not. So they do it by hand. It's amazing. Why they are doing it by hand? Because they have to record many, many matches around the whole world. And it is expensive. Because for the moment, they are doing that better than an algorithm. In some cases, there are events that are very clear, but others not. These tackles, when there's a duel, it's not clear who is retaining the ball. And in many, many cases, it's a person that better assigns what is the outcome of a certain action. This is for the event. For the tracking, it's done by video. You have cameras in the stadiums, and as I mentioned before, they triangulate the position, and it is done by video. Maybe you have realized that normally when a match is finished, players exchange the T-shirts, and you can see they have a GPS. Some of them, they have a GPS. Did you realize that? I mean, this GPS, it is not for the tracking. It is taking, measuring the distance, speed, etc. Something that can also be measured with the tracking, with the video, but they have it just for the internal analysis of each team. And the GPS is not used for the tracking. I mentioned that because many people think that the tracking is obtained from the GPS. It is not obtained from the GPS. Basically, because in the GPS, you only have information about your players. You don't have information about the other team because they have their own GPS for them. And you have information about the ball. And it's very important to know where's the ball to do the analysis. And you have that from the video. So the majority of data right now, it is taken from the video. Algorithms are improved, are being improved. And in the years to come, probably we will see how we will have less manually introduction of the data, and we will move to the video more. But it's the video right now. The skeleton, for example, is from the video. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was a very, very interesting talk, considering that I don't follow football. So, but it occurred to me something while you were talking about these tracking networks. The point is the following: if what you have there is transitions of different topologies. Okay, I mean every time you have every half a second when you look at it, you have a different topology, and then what you could be doing, because we have been done with swarmalators, and we have 600 or 1,000 of them that we analyze at the same time, is you could study topological parameters of some of the movements. And for instance, to see if there is any change in the topological parameters in movements that finish in a goal or in movements that finish on nothing. And so maybe there is, I mean, because there is a certain amount of topological parameters that could be be calculated on real time, so that they could apply it at a particular game. If you know some who could try those things.
Yeah, yeah, so I completely agree with you. I mean, you can do many, many things. Last summer, I was in a talk from Romualdo Pastor Satorras. Maybe you know him, and he's working now in what they call a school of fishes. So they have fishes in a pool, like maybe 20 fishes, small fishes, and they move. And I was watching the videos, and I was thinking, I mean, it's the same that I have in the video I show you with the raster. It's the same. So it's the same. And later I was talking with him, and I told him, I mean, what are you measuring? And he explained me the paper. And everything he was measuring, I could measure. And we are beginning to measure that. We are beginning to measure, for example, the number of players that activate, the number of players that are aligned and towards, I mean, if the limits of the pitch constrain the speeds of the players and how do they move like this. And it's very similar. And I like this because, I mean, this data is great because you have the location, the speed, you have everything, all the information there.
Yeah, and if you do an analysis of that sort, which with 22 persons and I consider that one should put the ball as another node. I mean, it's not a complicated. I mean, it's easy to do it very, very fast because you have not only your time is very short, and the amount of nodes is also very small.
Yeah.
And so it could be done very, very quickly.
Yeah, this is.
I mean,
I always think that when I begin a new work.
Discuss it in detail later.
When I begin a new work, it's always like, this is very easy. And then when I begin to do it, I realize that it is not very easy.
No,
And yeah. I mean, but there are a lot of ideas coming from this swarming analysis that many physicists have done in the context of ecology, for example, that can be applied to this. And the nice thing is that we have the data. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
If there are no other students that want to ask a question. Okay, thank you so much for the talk. So, very inspiring, so I really like it. So I have two questions. One, you were saying that the basketball changed, and you were showing that they shoot more from 3 points. So is the total scoring going up too? So how efficient is that?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I am not an expert. I never work with basketball, but I have some studies. I have checked some studies. I think the number of points has increased, okay? But I don't know. I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, but my question was efficiency. Like if they are changing how to play, but if it's make that new way of playing is efficient, then you will see the total scoring going up. Because I don't know,
I mean, see, yeah.
But then my other question that sorry,
I mean, one thing I wanted to mention in soccer, and I mean, I'm going to tell you an opinion, okay? So, because, I mean, all these works, I always insist, they are descriptive, and they describe what happened. I mean, they are not giving you the clues of what is going to happen in the future or how do you have to play. I mean, because, I mean, it's very difficult. It's like in biology. I mean, something changes and a new property appears and from you don't know where, no? And it's like this here. But this is a zero-sum game. So one wins, another loses. So you can do it better, but if the other does better, I mean, you lose. So what's the point? I mean, you have to do this, yes, but the other team also knows that and then does the same. So if you know that he is going to do the same, maybe you have to do another thing because he knows that, you know, it's like game theory, like the Pictionary dilemma we were talking yesterday. So it's clear what you have to do, but at the end, one wins and the other loses. I mean, not all teams win. You cannot have two winners. And this is going to constrain the way you play. So maybe in the future, because everybody knows that you are going to three from this line of 3 points, maybe they begin to shoot from another place because they are less defended. This is what I wanted to, I mean, give you as my opinion. This is just an opinion.
Great. Thank you. And then the other thing is that you were saying that in football hasn't happened yet. But my question is, has it changed the way they choose players? Like in that movie with, I don't know, the other game?
Yeah, I mean,
with Brad Pitt.
You mean scouting, scouting of players.
Scouting and all that.
Yes.
So is that changing?
Yeah, it's changing a lot. Scouting is changing a lot. I mean, football is a sport that is very reluctant to changes. It's very classical at the end. So scouting is resisting because there are interests, there are economical interests, power interests, etc. But they realize that they have to include this kind of analysis, and I can tell you that it is changing. The agencies that represent players, right now they hire data scientists to better understand what are the numbers of the players, what are the players that they have to hire to their agencies, what is the optimum moment to sell a player or not, what is the most adequate team where a player is going to fit better than. So the data analysis in soccer is, I mean, it's growing a lot. And yeah, basically physicists and mathematicians. Yeah.
Thank you, Javier, for your talk, and happy birthday. I remember a public conference from Lionel Scaloni. He said that after 10 passes, he realized that there was a goal, not a goal, but a goal situation in Argentinian selection. And when I listened that, I heard that, I was wondering if this information was also very sensitive, because it's all the other players can use it, of course. So in this context, how sensitive are the teams to share this information to the science institutions? How you would say that it is for a young group or research group to have access to this information and to start doing these kind of things? Because I can imagine that, for you that you work with the Liga, it's easy, but I can imagine that for other groups.
Yeah. Okay, let me begin saying that when an Argentina says something, you have to take it very, with a lot of careful, because, Scaloni said, as you mentioned before, that, after 10 movements, I know if you're going to score. Okay. Yeah, probably you have an impression. This is what you say, but, the data analysis is based on the data, and the data, I mentioned that it's very good, but there are many other things in the data that it is not here. We don't have information about everything. What your eye is seeing is much more than what I have here. Remember that, for example, that the plays were a point. It's a point, a player right now. It's a particle. But a person that has experiences in soccer, when they see a player moving, like touching the ball, just the position of the body, they realize that this guy is very good. The way they pass the ball, how they hit it, how the ball moves, this is not captured in the data right now. So we still need the experience of these experts in soccer that with their eyes, they capture information that it is not in this data. And of course, they know many, many things that are not included in the analysis, and I insisted. These are just pieces of puzzle, and we need to obtain information. Concerning the analysis of data, if you are a scientific group and you want to begin in this, there's free data that you can use there to construct your models. You can also buy data. You can contact federations. They are open to that. I was in the Superliga, some years ago with Matias Conde, an Argentinian guy that was very interested in collaborated in analyzing these kind of things in the Argentina League, but they didn't have the data. But sometimes you just need to send an email, and they are open to collaborate, because if you can help them, they won't pay you. But if you can help them, they will be interested. I see that there are opportunities of doing things. There are many things to be done still. That has to evolve right now. And many of the things that I am telling you, they are beginning to be applied in soccer. So we have space for many people working on that. Yeah.
Okay.
And the community is very help each other. It's very nice. Yeah.
We have a last question here.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a short question related to the last one. When you buy the data is, the company gives you the data before the match, or could be you can provide the data on the fly?
What do you mean before the match? The data?
After the match.
Okay. Yeah. It depends on the company, but in our case, we buy the data to a company that gives you the data during the match, because we are doing analysis during the match. So this data has a delay time around minutes, like between 1 and 3 minutes. And we have the access to everything that happens in the match with a delay of 1 or 3 minutes. So we have the data right during the match, and you have it there. And you can do the analysis there with a delay. So yes, if you are curious about it, what is the price of this data? The Spanish National League, one season is like 15,000 euros, like $18,000, something like this. One competition, 1 year. If you contract more competitions, they give you a discount, but it's, this budget for a soccer team is nothing. For a research team, it's money, but you can afford it. We do it, and we don't have a lot of money. Yeah.
Okay, we thanks Javier again.
Okay, thank you.
Please, before goes to the coffee break, and I would like to organize the presentations. So given that it's 11:15, almost, the proposal is to start 11:45, make 5 presentations in the morning until 1 p.m., and between 10 minutes and 15-minute presentation. And after lunch, we can have the rest of the other 6 presentations because we have 11 groups. So in order to get organized, I would like to ask you to come to me